We got a special podcast on the way because we're talking special teams with coordinator Chris Banjo and Quincy Enunwa.
We can beat anybody in the world, and I think we're going to win next Sunday.
It's picked off. Aaron Glenn. Jumbled and caught. Jumbo Elliott. One-handed catch. Chris back gets running room. It's Reeves. Can't wait.
Put your seatbelts on and get ready for the ride.
Official Jets podcast is presented by Kendra Scott, the jewelry company that's shining bright and doing good. Shop game day, jewelry styles, and so much more at kendrascott.com. On your 33rd birthday, you announced on social media that you were retiring from football. What was your plans at that point?
To be honest, my plans got expedited a little bit. I didn't plan initially to retire my quote-unquote 33rd birthday. I had just finished my 10th season, a couple weeks prior. I had anticipated maybe waiting around, seeing if I was going to try for an 11th, but I received a call from a former coach of mine and Coach Sean Payton, and he painted a picture of like what coaching could look like for me. He'd always talked about, he'd always referenced something like that in my prior playing days with him. But I never really took it all that serious at the time. But Sean is real persistent, and he's very, very good at painting visuals for people. So when he did that, I was able to kind of see the same vision that he had, and it made sense. And I also knew the passion I still had for football in general. So that went into my decision in retiring.
Had you and Sean spoke about possibly coaching in your future during your playing days?
Yes, he had referenced it. Yeah, back when I was in New Orleans, he'd always used to say, "Hey, you be a great coach. You be a good coach when you're done." And I used to mess around with him, like, "Man, I'm not trying to do that. I'm worried about playing right now,
right.
Obviously." And I hadn't played for Sean by the time when he had called me in 4 years. My last time playing for Sean was in 2019. I had retired after the 2022 season. So when he called me, I wasn't thinking that he was calling me about coaching, but sure enough, he was, and instantly those memories came back about, the conversations we had, and I was able to kind of see it full circle.
So take me back to New Orleans. Not only is Peyton the head coach, but your secondary coach is a guy by the name of Aaron Glenn.
No doubt.
What was it like for you being in that position room? You were a safety. And also, what kind of relationship did you guys strike up there?
I think we were able, by God's grace, to strike up a very, very good relationship, very great working relationship in regards to, what he expected from me as a player, what I could expect from him, at him as a coach, how demanding he was, and everything that he poured into us as players there was great. I was able to carry a lot of those same things with me, not only on the football field, but in life from our time there in New Orleans. He had, real similar. He had mentioned, me being a coach on the field and, being able to get guys lined up. And he was able to see kind of my attention to detail and approaching my game. And sure enough, as I got into coaching too, he was excited for me, excited for my opportunity to go coach, and just talked about, what my future can end up looking like in regards to coaching.
So you go to SMU, you're a successful college player, you go undrafted. How did you go on to play 131 games as far as regular season play in the National Football League? And then you have a bunch of playoff games on your resume as well.
Yeah, only by God's grace. When you say going undrafted, that route obviously is not the most ideal route or the most iconic by any means. My situation was a little bit different. Not only did I go undrafted, but I was out of football for a whole year before I received my first opportunity. During that time, I was working as a tech recruiter. Also, waking up at 4 o'clock, working out, just trying to get, every opportunity I could. And fortunately enough, I was fortunate enough to get an opportunity in Jacksonville. Got cut the day before training camp, the day right before training camp. Signed to Green Bay 4 days late in the training camp, and I was fortunate enough to make the 53, and then the very on out I was able to play 10 years. But to be able to play, like you said, 131 games, be a part of numerous playoff games, again, it's all by God's grace. I did everything I possibly could to put one foot in front of the other, and God did the rest.
I got to imagine it's easy for you to look around your room, the special teams room right now, and relate to all these guys, because not only are you a young dude, but you were a core special teams player throughout your career.
No doubt.
So across the board, you did it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So no doubt about it. In regards of being able to relate to them, I'm talking about everything they do, they think about. I'm like, I'm right there with you. So the passion that I try to speak with them is not because I'm I'm just making something up. I've literally been fortunate enough to do exactly what it is that you're doing right now, sitting in these exact same seats. So speaking from that perspective, I think I've been fortunate enough to be able to grab some of those guys' attention when it comes to that.
You know this all too well, but special teams is often overlooked. People talk about offensive unit, defensive unit. How fortunate do you feel like you are here where a guy in Aaron Glenn is going to put such an emphasis on the importance of special teams?
Very fortunate, extremely fortunate, not only being the coach, but for the guys who are on this team to hear those same words come from his mouth and echo that sentiment is huge. It's huge. I tell these guys all the time that special teams, specifically for me, changed my life. And I believe it can do the same for them. And to have a head coach that believes in that perspective for the game, I think is huge. I think it's kind of a little bit of a lost art in regards to NFL, how a lot of teams approach it. But again, to have a head coach that buys in like that to it, I think is phenomenal.
Can you speak to your experience in Denver and how that's going to help you now as you are the guy in front of the room? You're making the calls.
I think I was fortunate enough to have a great experience in Denver. I was fortunate to be molded by a lot of great people in regards to this game, this fourth down game that we play on special teams. When you talk about Mike Westhoff, who's obviously a former great here, you talk about Ben Kawika, who's had some history here as well. Obviously, Sean Payton is being another head coach who really emphasizes special teams as well. So Denver was a great infrastructure for me to kind of come up in regards to, being a young coach. But now I'm excited for my opportunity here now with another great coaching staff. So.
Can you speak to the similarities between AG and Peyton?
They're similar, but they're also very different. I mean, when you talk about the intensity, the attention to detail, I think I would say is the biggest similarity I would note right there. Their attention to detail is very, very rare that I've come across in this game of football. They no details too small or too big, and they make sure they emphasize that. But they're also very different in terms of just their personalities, their backgrounds a little bit. They have their own way of stamping different things that they do for sure.
We got to let you get downstairs, but I wanted to ask you about the competitions here across the board with your unit, starting at kicker. You can go back to punter as well. It's in the early going. What's going to happen once we get through OTAs and once training camp starts, not only at those two positions, but for the rest of your guys?
No doubt. I mean, you said the key word right there is competition. And that's something AG has stressed since day one that all of us have stepped into here to this building. It is about competition, and they thrive on that. They live on that. And there's no secret that we're in a competition, specifically when we talk about from the specialist standpoint. We're very excited to see what all those guys can do. They have a lot of potential in what they're able to do, the tools that they have. But again, across the board that you've talked about, when you talk about a lot of these four core guys, we're just excited to see all these guys hit the ground running and see what that competition does for them.
Thanks, Chris. Appreciate your time.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Get ready for all the action and energy of Jets game day this season with 2025 season tickets. Lock in your seats to be there for every snap of exciting matchups at MetLife Stadium at nyjets.com/season tickets. Quincy, what's up?
What's going on?
You enjoying the summer?
Of course. It's been pretty good so far, so I just wish it would start raining out here.
Yeah. You had the sun in Southern California, though.
Oh, beautiful sun. No humidity. It was nice. I loved it out there.
All right. Let's talk about special teams.
Yes, sir.
Jets have a new coaching staff, of course. Aaron Glenn selected Chris Banjo to lead his special teams unit. Your thought of the choice?
I think it's, when you think about special teams, that's a huge role to fill, right? Because I think a lot of people don't talk about special teams and the importance of it. As a young guy, you realize that it's really important because if you want to get on the field, you need special teams. So to bring in a guy that was a assistant last year to be your head coordinator, that means you have a lot of faith in him. This is a young special teams unit, right? Last year we had a lot of older guys, the punter, the kicker, right? Now you've got, new punter, new kicker, right? You got a returner coming back that, had some success. But he's got his work cut out for him. So I've said it before. I think that AG really wants his guys to be great coaches and great teachers.
You as a player, is that something that resonated with you that, hey, listen, my coordinator is a young dude, and not only is he young, but he played in this league over 10 years?
Yeah, so I never had that experience. So I think as special teams, it would be interesting, right? And I hope that he kind of brings his film, because special teams film is different than any other film. I like special teams because it's like mercenary, one-on-one. It's like real dog play there, man. Like, I think if I didn't have success on offense, I would have tried to play special teams as long as possible, because you really get to show your athletic ability and your mentality. So I hope he brings that into the coaching room, because it'll just kind of give him a little one-up.
What's that mentality entering the National Football League if you are a late-round pick or an undrafted free agent?
Oh, I mean, it's important. I think you see a lot of guys say, "Oh, I'm never going to play special teams." I think that's the wrong. Like, I don't care where you're drafted, honestly. Like, you should try to find a way, because it'll just kind of get you in the good graces. Like a young guy like myself, a 6th-round pick, there was 3 guys that we drafted at receiver, but I separated myself because I got in with a special teams coach. Now he knows my name, right? He wants to put me on the field, so it just kind of now it's like, okay, we have an extra slot. Well, this receiver plays special teams. Let's put him out there. So, I think it's one of the most important things you can do as a young guy.
It was such an emphasis for Aaron Glenn at his 2 previous stops when you're talking about Detroit under Dan Campbell, and then, of course, Sean Payton in New Orleans. For years, he just put that on top as far as we're going to be good at this. And then you go back as far as AG is concerned, the Bill Parcells influence. Yeah. And Parcells always stressed special teams.
Exactly. We could talk about one of our biggest rivals is the Jets, Bill Belichick, right? A guy that really hones in on special teams as well. So it's a really important piece of the game. I honestly wish that TV broadcast spent a little more time on it, kind of gave us a better view. I think if we could get a more comprehensive understanding of football, not just the offense and defensive side, but also the special team side, right? I think people would really kind of look at it differently.
All right, so as we head into training camp, I just wanted to read a couple numbers to you from last year. Jets field goal percentage, 71.43, 30th in the National Football League. Yeah. The Jets were 24th in points difference. 3.9 points a game, 19th in yards per game difference, minus 3.5. So, I mean, the margins there, not too much.
Yeah.
And that can be the difference between winning and losing, and especially as you're starting a program here. Aaron Glenn has put an emphasis not only on the defense, on the offense, but saying, hey, listen, we have to excel in this area.
Yeah, I mean, you're talking about a blade of grass there, right, like in terms of the margin. So, I think we all saw last year how much special teams came to play. We didn't have big plays in the return game, right? Field goals were being missed, so those small pieces there really changed the outcome of the season. And if you talk to some of the players, they'll say the same thing, right? I think they understand that, they have to do a better job offensive defense, but special teams could have helped them just kind of push them forward.
Yeah, you wonder how the trajectory of the season and how everything could have changed if special teams might have been different last year. So as we head into training camp, you got battles across the board, which is kind of no surprise because special teams is the one unit where you see so much turnover. But for the Jets specifically, you're going to have a kicking battle with Harrison Mevis and Caden Davis. Now, Mevis, who the Jets just signed, what do you think about the nickname? The thicker kicker, 5'11", 243 pounds. He went 20 of 21 for the UFL's Birmingham Stallions recently.
He reminds me of who was the Raiders kicker, Sebastian Janikowski.
That's right.
He was a big dude out there, man. But, he played for a very long time. You hope that if you got a guy with a great nickname like that he ends up, being your guy for a long time. So.
Yeah, so I wonder how they're going to approach it because it's one thing what's going to happen out here on the practice field. Right. But I think a lot of coordinators over the years, I remember Brant Boyer always told me that, hey, we have to see what these guys actually do under the lights.
Exactly, right. So, one thing I can say, though, is that practice really kind of gives you an idea of how a guy will be. But once you get under the lights, right, that's where some guys just kind of shine brighter than others. So, we're going to see, obviously, in preseason, how these guys kind of go out there and win the games, lose the games, compete, and then we'll really know who's going to be the guy.
All right. You also have a punting battle.
Yep.
Thomas Morstead no longer here, of course. He signed with the 49ers. You got Austin McNamara and Kai Kroger, a rookie out of South Carolina. So that's something we'll be watching as well.
Yeah, and another important piece, when you talk about Morstead, he was one of the leaders, right? He was one of the guys that really kind of changed the course of some games. Some of those kicks were amazing. we also, one thing that we haven't mentioned is obviously the gunner play, right?
Yep.
You
I'm
talk
glad
about
you
Irvin
mentioned it.
Charles.
We're going to get to it.
Yeah. So, the punting game, the kicking game, those are all important. The other pieces are also very important as well.
Yeah. Irv Charles,
Yeah.
he wasn't participating throughout the spring. He was coming back from injury,
Yeah.
but listen, a special teams wolf, the guy was a beast.
Yeah.
The Jets also signed Chris Boyd in free agency,
Yep.
a guy who has cut his teeth in the National Football League.
Absolutely.
But by what he's done on teams.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think that's another guy that's going to come in and be a big piece. And, we'll see, how deep his play is on offense. But a guy like Aaron Smith is not a bad guy to put out there at gunner, right? A guy that can just kind of close the space, close the gap on the punting game.
Yeah, so the Jets did select Arian Smith
Mm-hmm.
out of the draft, and he's going to change the dynamic, hopefully, offensively. We'll have to see how he works into some packages there. But he's not just a lanky guy with speed. He
Yeah.
gets after it with his physicality.
Yeah, of course. And that's one thing you're gonna have to do. Whether or not he was somebody that did that, as a guy that wasn't top 3 pick, right? He's gonna have to find a way to do that. And I think gunner play would be amazing for him if he could just learn a few little skills there. He's got a great mentor in Irv Charles. I mean, that guy, he was getting double, triple teamed, right? Like, things that you don't usually see, but that's how you know how important he is. So if he can come back from that injury, it's a dangerous 2 guys there.
Yeah, but how about the transition over the years when we talk about a guy like Justin Hardy?
Yeah.
Brandon Eccles is
Yeah.
no longer here. He departed in free agency. You mentioned Charles and his growth, but other guys that we have to watch at the gunner position. You got to watch a guy like Arian Smith.
Yes.
You have to watch a guy who is a rookie out of Florida, Jamarcus Weston. He appeared in 52 games for the Gators. He had 16 defensive stops, 1 forced fumble, and 1 sack. He made his mark in Gainesville on special teams.
Yeah.
And this guy's got a different body, man. He's like 6'3", 250 plus.
Yeah.
Playing gunner.
Yeah, that's scary. Listen, those are the most dangerous guys, and that's why I say, like, it's really mercenary. Like, you really get to show your athletic ability, and that's where you can kind of separate yourself from other guys. Like, some guys are just great football players, some guys are great athletes, and if you can be a great athlete that is also very physical, then special teams can take you a long way.
All right, so what do you want to see from the returner position?
Yeah.
You got X-Man coming back, Xavier Gibson. You got Kene Nwanwu, who returns. You got a couple rookies there, Jamal Pritchett and Demir Miller. And then we should mention Arian Smith as well.
Yeah, definitely. I think, you've got a couple guys there with some touchdown experience. Getting a touchdown on special teams is very difficult, right? So if you've been able to touch the end zone at least one time in your career, that boosts your confidence to another level. You're talking about a guy, Banjo, their coach, who was assistant special teams in Denver. They actually were top 3 or 4 in punt return yards last year, right? So I think that's an important piece because last year we didn't see a lot of great returns. So if he can bring that over here, that'll really help. Again, we talk about special teams helping the team. This would be a great way to do that.
How difficult is it to field punts in this league?
Oh my God, punters are magicians, right? Like, they're able to make the ball do things that I've never seen before, right? The way that it spins, it can, the wind starts taking and all these other things. So it's not easy, right? Those guys that can catch punts, they're special players.
Did you enjoy doing something like that after practice?
No, I would do kickoffs because kickoffs are way easier to read.
Right.
And I had a kickoff return a little bit, but punts were just a different animal. But honestly, I wish I would have, just to kind of get a better understanding of how the ball travels in the air.
I'm very impressed out here watching X every day because he's a fluid catcher. And you need a guy who can catch the ball before he gets up the field. And you got to do it cleanly no matter who's booting it on the other side.
Definitely. There were so many times last year, I hope that he continues to improve and progress. But there were a lot of times last year where he would do things that, for me, I would feel worried because I'm like, whoa. But that's how you know how confident he is in his ability to catch punts, because he was doing things at times that were just a little risky, but he would catch the punt, So that's how you know he really puts time into his craft.
And to your point about Nwanwu, here's a guy who's put the ball into the end zone, not only with Minnesota, but he comes here and he's activated, and there he is running one back for a touchdown.
Yeah. So, they've got some dynamic guys back there, and again, the return game is one that you want to continue to improve and change the game. It really flips the field every time. So.
What changes in camp when you put the pads on, because this camp is going to be physical under Aaron Glenn. And I'm specifically talking about special teams unit.
Yeah, I mean, I think one thing that you'll really see, they've changed a lot of special teams since I played, right? And that wasn't even that long ago, right? There's so many different rules. You talk about the kickoff game, but I think getting those reps in with pads is really important, because now it's a lot of skill and physicality when you talk about how to block a kickoff return, right? You don't get the opportunity to really meet a guy 5-10 yards away from the kickoff. You have to catch him, so it makes it a little challenging for guys.
Fisher Jets podcast is presented by Kendra Scott, the jewelry company that's shining bright and doing good. Shop game day, jewelry styles, and so much more at kendrascott.com. Time for my extra point. Aaron Glenn comes from the Bill Parcells coaching tree, so he's going to emphasize hidden yardage at every turn. In a league where most games are decided by 7 points or less, factors like net punting differential, average starting possession, and penalty differential are huge. Parcells' old adage is 100 yards of hidden yardage is worth 7 points. When it comes down to tough roster decisions, the ultimate tiebreaker for depth players may come down to team's value. For this Jets team to win, special teams will be critical every week. Until next time, we'll see you later.